I don't know what she was, human, spirit, or something far older, but the night I first heard her whisper my name, I realized I'd made a mistake I couldn't undo. Some people say witches aren't real, but after what happened deep in those woods, I don't say that anymore. Before we begin, please, tell me in the comments, what city are you watching from? I want to find the darkest stories from your town and turn them into a video. And if you enjoy true horror stories, make sure to subscribe. Turn on notifications, leave a like, and watch until the end because the final twist in these stories will absolutely stay with you. I grew up in a quiet rural town in West Virginia, the kind of place where everyone knows everyone, and nothing truly strange is supposed to happen. But the forest behind our house always felt different. My dad used to say it was just old mountain superstition, that dark woods make people imagine things. But even as a kid, I sensed something watching from between the trees, a kind of presence, patient and silent, like it was waiting for someone to wander too far. By the time I turned 17, the forest was the one place I went when I needed to clear my head. I'd walk the small trails, kick at the pine needles, and listen to the wind move through the branches. Most days, it felt peaceful, but not all days. Sommevenings. The forest grew. Unusually still, no insects, no birds, not even the rustle of squirrels. Just a silence so deep it felt like stepping underwater. Those were the evenings I walked a little faster. It was late October when everything changed. I remember the cold bite in the air, the way the leaves had turned into a bright crackling carpet under my boots. I'd gone further than usual, exploring a part of the woods where the trees grew twisted, their branches clawing at each other overhead. That's when I noticed something odd. A circle of stones on the ground. They were arranged with too much precision to be random, seving smooth, flat rocks, each carved with symbols I didn't recognize, almost like runes. I should have turned around immediately, but curiosity tugged me forward. At the center of the circle lay a small wooden figure. It looked handmade, carved into the crude shape of a woman with long hair and hollow eyes. The air around it felt colder, as if the temperature dropped several degrees the moment I stepped closer. I bent down and picked it up. The forest reacted instantly. Every branch above me trembled, though there was no wind. A faint sound, something between a sigh and a whisper, moved through the clearing. It came from everywhere and nowhere at once. I felt a prickle crawl up the back of my neck, the unmistakable sensation of being watched. I dropped the figure, but the feeling didn't go away. "Hello," I called out, trying to sound braver than I felt. The whispering stopped. Then, from deeper in the woods, I heard something far worse. Slow, deliberate footsteps, not the quick skitter of an animal, but heavy, dragging steps. They moved toward me with unbearable slowness, as though whatever was approaching wanted me to hear every second of its arrival. I didn't wait to see what it was. I sprinted out of the clearing, heart pounding, branches tearing at my clothes as I ran. I didn't stop until I saw the faint glow of our house through the trees. At dinner, my mom asked why I was so pale. I told her I wasn't feeling well. I didn't mention the clearing. That night, while lying in bed, I heard something, a faint tapping on my window. At first, I thought it was just a branch in the wind, but the tapping was too rhythmic, too intentional. 3 slow taps. Pause. 3 more. I froze. Our house was one story. My bedroom window was only 6 feet off the ground. Anyone or anything could easily reach it. I forced myself to look. When I pulled back the curtain just an inch, I saw nothing but darkness. But then, from that darkness, a whisper slipped through the glass, so soft I thought I imagined it. Mine. I stumbled back from the window, heart racing. I didn't sleep that night. The next morning, I convinced myself it had been exhaustion, or maybe my mind playing tricks after the scare in the woods. But as I stepped outside, I saw something that made my stomach drop. Right under my window, pressed into the dirt, was a single footprint. Bare, long, narrow, and not shaped like any human foot I'd ever seen. I told myself I would never go back into those woods, but I should have known. Once you're marked, once something ancient takes interest in you, it doesn't simply give up. 2 days later, I found the wooden figure on my porch. The same hollow-eyed carving I'd dropped in the clearing now placed neatly beside the doormat, as though waiting for me. Primera, didn't touch. Italiano. I used a shovel to lift it and toss it into the garbage bin behind the house. I slammed the lid shut, feeling a rush of relief. That relief didn't last, because around midnight, I woke to the sound of the garbage lid opening. Slowly, quietly, as if someone was lifting it with careful, deliberate hands. I lay in bed, frozen, listening to the unmistakable creak of plastic. Then soft footsteps walking across the yard. Then, Salen. When I dared to look out the window the next morning, the figure was back, this time balanced perfectly on my windowsill. I didn't even have to touch it to feel the chill radiating from it. Something wanted me. Something old. Something patient. And it was getting closer. I didn't know who to talk to. Telling my parents would get me nowhere. They'd never believe any of this. So I pretended everything was normal, even though I barely slept, listening for footsteps outside my window, afraid to close my eyes. For 2 days, nothing happened. No footprints, no tapping, no whispering. I started convincing myself that maybe, somehow, things were back to normal. Maybe the forest had just gotten into my head. But on the third night, everything changed. I woke up around 2 a.m. to the sound of something rustling outside. Not the wind, not an animal. It was a slow, dragging sound, like someone pulling fabric or branches across the ground. My heart jumped into my throat. I didn't want to look, but I forced myself to sit up and glance toward the window. A shadow moved across it. Not fast, not darting, just drifting, almost gliding. Taller than any person I knew, impossibly thin. Its form stretched in a way that didn't seem human. I stayed absolutely still, barely breathing. The shadow paused directly beside my window. Then something much worse happened. A long, pale hand with impossibly thin fingers pressed against the glass. Each finger ended in a sharp, pointed nail, tapping once, twice, 3 times. Tap, tap, tap. 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 Tap, tap. The hand traced down the glass, leaving faint streaks behind, before slowly sinking out of view. I must have sat frozen for 10 minutes after it disappeared. When I finally gained the courage to peer out the window, the yard was empty, but the wooden figure was gone. At dawn, after what felt like hours of pacing in my room, I finally gathered the courage to go outside. The grass was damp with dew, but right in the soil under my window I found them again, those same strange footprints. They led away from the house, toward the tree line. I followed them only far enough to confirm one horrifying thing. They didn't stop at the woods. They started there. That evening, I did something desperate. I went to see my grandmother. She lived about 30 minutes away, in an old farmhouse filled with jars of dried herbs, strange little charms, and books she kept locked in cabinets. My dad always said she was old-fashioned, but I'd heard the whispers in town. People said she knew things that weren't meant to be spoken out loud. When she opened the door and saw me standing there, she didn't smile. She didn't say hello. She just stared at me with eyes that suddenly looked older, darker. "You went into the forest," she said quietly. I swallowed hard. "I didn't mean to. I found something. You picked it up." It wasn't a question. I nodded. Her face tightened. She stepped aside. "Come in." Quickly. Her house smelled like sage and something bitter. She made me sit at the kitchen table and tell her everything, every detail, from finding the clearing to the tapping on the window. She didn't interrupt. She didn't look surprised. If anything, she looked like she'd been waiting for this. When I finished, she sighed and leaned back in her chair. "You crossed a boundary," she said. "An old one. Older than this land. Those stones you found, those weren't just placed. They were anchored. A binding circle. You broke it when you took the figure. What does it want from me? I asked, trying to keep my voice steady. My grandmother looked at me for a long time before answering. Witches don't forget when something of theirs is stolen, she said, and they don't forgive. My stomach twisted, but I put it back. I threw it away. You threw it away? She repeated sharply. You didn't return it. There's a difference. She stood and walked to one of her locked cabinets. When she returned, she set a small leather pouch in front of me. Take this. Tonight, sprinkle what's inside around your window and door. Don't speak. Don't look outside if you hear her. Just wait. Wait for what? For dawn. If she comes, she'll come before sunrise. I didn't want to go home. The idea of being in that house, alone, while something ancient hunted me, it made my skin crawl. But my grandmother insisted I had to face it. That running farther would only pull her closer. So I returned home just before sunset, clutching the pouch like a lifeline. The moment I stepped inside, the house felt cold. Wrong, as if someone had been there while we were gone. I sprinkled the mixture around my doors and window. It smelled like crushed leaves and metal. Then I sat on my bed and waited. The first few hours passed in silence. Then, around 1:30 a.m., I heard it, a faint, distant whisper. Not from outside. From the woods. It grew louder, closer. The sound of someone calling out not words, but a long, drawn-out murmur that rose and fell like a chant. I felt the hairs on my arms stand on end. Branches snapped, leaves crackled. Something walked out of the forest. I didn't see her at first. Just a shape moving in the dark, slow and deliberate. As she approached, the chanting stopped. The night grew silent, unnaturally silent. Then came the tapping. Tap, tap, tap. Right against the window glass. My entire body tensed. I stared straight ahead, refusing to look, remembering my grandmother's warning. But then she spoke, a whisper so soft, so close to the glass. It fogged the pain. You have what is mine. Her voice sounded old. Not old like an elderly woman. Like dried leaves. Like cracking wood. Like something that had lived long before people existed. I shut my eyes tightly. She tapped again, harder this time. Then her voice slid through the cracks of the window frame. A breath colder than winter air. Look at me. The urge to turn my head was overwhelming. Not curiosity, something else. Something pulling at my mind. I dug my nails into my palms to stop myself. Seconds felt like hours. Then, suddenly, silence. No tapping, no whispering, no footsteps. I waited until dawn before daring to move. When sunlight finally touched the edge of my room, I crept toward the window and opened the curtain just an inch. The yard was empty. Almost right in the center of the grass, placed perfectly on the frost-covered ground, was the wooden figure. But this time, its carved smile was wider, and its eyes were no longer hollow. Something watched from inside them. I didn't touch the wooden figure that morning. I couldn't. Just looking at it made my stomach twist. I went back inside and locked every door. I didn't go to school. I didn't eat. I sat in my room with the blinds closed, shaking, trying to convince myself there had to be a way out of this something. My grandmother hadn't. T told me. Something she might have missed. By noon, I couldn't stand it anymore. Just listen. She's marked you fully now. You can't ignore it anymore. But it's not as simple as putting the figure back. A witch's binding circle isn't a game. Once it's broken, it must be restored. Restored how? You must take it back to the clearing, she said quietly. Alone. If even one is off, she won't accept the offering. The line went silent. I didn't want to go. Every instinct screamed at me to run in the opposite direction. But something deeper, something cold and heavy pulled me toward the woods, as though the witch was whispering just beneath my thoughts, pushing me closer with every passing minute. By late afternoon, I forced myself outside. The figure lay exactly where I'd last seen Italiano. I wrapped it in a towel so I wouldn't have to touch it and started walking toward the tree line. With every step, the air grew colder. Even the crunch of leaves under my feet sounded muted, like the woods were holding their breath. The stones were no longer scattered. They were arranged again, except one spot was empty, a spot meant for the figure. The moment my foot crossed the boundary, a sharp sting ran through me, like static electricity snapping under my skin. The wooden figure stared back at me with its carved smile, its eyes dark and glassy, reflecting something that wasn't the forest something moving. I placed it in the empty center of the circle. Wind slammed through the clearing, though the trees around it didn't move. You broke the seal. Ispun harund, but there was no one there. You took what was mine. The voice came from the trees, from the ground, from the air itself. Old, cracked, and hungry. I backed away toward the edge of the clearing, but the moment I tried to cross the boundary, an invisible force shoved me back. Hard. I stumbled, catching myself before falling onto one of the stones. The voice circled closer. I didn't mean to. I choked out. Please, I returned it. I put it back. The wind died instantly. Then, from the darkness between the trees, she stepped into view. At first I thought it was a shadow toll, impossibly thin, but as she came closer, I started to see her shape more clearly. Her limbs were long and crooked, bent at angles no human joints could bend. Her hair hung in long, tangled strands, drifting as if underwater. But her face was the worst. Only deep, empty hollows that seemed to draw in the light around them. Yet somehow, I felt her looking at me. You call this returning it? You throw my vessel away like refuse. And now, you claim innocence? What do you want? I whispered. Her eyeless face twitched. My blood turned cold. Traded. For what? A name? I blinked. A name? One willingly given, she whispered. Speak a name, and I will take them instead. A life for a life. A soul for a soul. Give me someone to replace you, and you will walk free. Someone I knew. Anyone. Just say a name. And she'd leave me alone. Speak, she hissed. Or be taken. And for one terrible second, I almost said it. A name flashed in my mind, someone I loved. Someone who trusted me. But I stopped. Even if she killed me, even if she dragged me into whatever nightmare world she crawled out of, I couldn't damn someone else in my place. I won't give you a name, I whispered. So be it. She raised her hand. The figure at the center of the circle began to shake violently, like something inside was clawing its way out. Closer. Closer. Then a deafening crack tore through the woods. I fell to my knees, blinded. When my vision cleared, I saw my grandmother standing at the edge of the circle, holding something burning in her hand. She shouted a word I'd never heard before, sharp, ancient. The witch recoiled, shrieking. Her body twisted, folding in on itself like a collapsing shadow before she vanished into the trees. The air snapping closed behind her. Silence returned. My grandmother rushed into the clearing, grabbed my arm, and yanked me out of the circle. And pray she never finds another way out. I don't know if she's still out there. Tap, 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 tap. And if you made it to the end, let me know in the comments what city you're rewatching from. I might create a scary story from your town next. And don't forget to subscribe, leave a like, and turn on notifications so you never miss more true horror stories.